Hello everybody, welcome to the Praetorian. I'm Roger Hanson, and today I'm going to bring up the topic of the art of subversion. I'm going to use my old Facebook note to use as an example of what I'm talking about. This is a note that I personally made myself off of a documentary that I'd watched and took notes on, and basically this is my writing. I had issues when it came to punctuation and stuff like that at the time, but I've since gotten better, but I haven't been able to go back over the the note to clean it up, so when I show it, please forgive me for my bad punctuation and possibly a lot of misspellings. So with that, I am going to start the conversation, and this is the art of subversion. People who want to subvert our government are not terrorists wanting to destroy our bridges and buildings. They are students, politicians, diplomats, actors, corporations, journalists, labor unions, and lobbyists. They are not gathering our information and selling it to the highest bidder either. With concern to time, money, and manpower, an organization will spend less than 15% of its time causing problems outside of its own organization. 85% of any organization's time, money, and manpower is used to subvert their target. The Soviet Union referred to this as distinctive aggressive activity aimed only at destroying the nation, country, or geographic area that is targeted. This, according to Yuri Bazanov, a former KGB agent who defected to the United States in the 1980s. Bazanov's a former KGB agent who defected to the United States in the 1980s, and he states that you cannot subvert a society that does not want to be subverted. Call it subversion or call it corruption, but misconceptions of the term is the reason why subversion is even considered legal in the United States today. Japan, for example, when their borders were closed, did not allow any foreigners within the borders, nor did they want to trade with outside sources. This was an attempt to preserve their culture, values, and traditions. Venice denied glassmakers the right to travel outside of their borders, but gave them special privilege and immunity from the law. This was in an attempt to covet the art of glass making within the state. In fear that the foundry fires would burn down the city, production ceased within the city limits, and the glass workers were moved to Murano. The city of Murano began to flourish and grow, and the glassmakers became Venice's most prominent citizens. The Soviet Union closed their borders too, and the media was censored. Literature was collected and disposed of to prevent the citizens from becoming subverted by outside influences. Subversion is a two-way street, and the only way that is successful is when the initiator has a target. In the stage of destabilization, the publication is much narrower than that of the demoralization. In the West, it is not even a moral crime to demoralize a target. Initiators want to create a belief that they are not your enemies. They are your friends. Reduction of spending is next, with trading technologies and financial aid. Initiators will provoke conflicts, and the target will be offered limited involvement with doctrines of containment, ideology, and half measures. Initiators will produce propaganda, and in return the target will give economic aid to the movement. The initiator will begin to expand its power and economic control of the target. The initiator will offer more propaganda, and there will be protest. Laws will be broken, and the media will become corrupt. The target will begin to feel isolated from the rest of the world and lose faith in its allies. The initiator will spread propaganda about its achievement, and the target will again send humanitarian aid. The target does something that is obviously wrong. If we are truly a democratic and free society, it is easy to see that we have many different movements within our society. Differences in ideology, criminals, people with psychotic personalities, conscientious enemies, as well as many others. There are also small groups of agents from outside as well as from within, who are subverted, bought, and recruited. The moment that all of a society movements are moving in the same direction is the moment when the initiator catches the movement and helps it to continue in its direction until that society collapses. In developing countries, this is referred to as the crisis stage, and it is the stage in which the target's legitimate bodies of power can no longer function. The society's structure collapses, and artificial bodies of non-elected committees, social workers, members of the media, and groups that claim they know how to lead society for us are introduced into the society to replace the previous structure. Through media sources, special interest groups, and minorities, subversion attacks, ideologies, and through media sources, special interest groups, and minorities, subversion attacks, ideology, and creates propaganda, attempting to replace religion and democracy with fake organizations, replacing democratically elected officials and taking away people's initiative and responsibility, replacing it with non-elected bureaucratically controlled bodies. The initiator affects the target's society's structure by convincing people that it is immoral and unjust, creating mistrust, challenging social issues with concerns of rights versus obligation, resulting in less individual response. Instead of friendly neighbors, the initiator established social workers who work for the bureaucratically controlled bodies and not for the people. It does not matter if you like them either. These are people who have replaced elected officials, so your feelings don't matter. Subversion promotes ignorance by manipulating, monopolizing, and discrediting the media through horse race journalism, turning journalists into feeble, mediocre snobs without courage and competition, because it is easier to survive that way. Give them each the same salary each month, because it does not matter as long as they smile into the camera and do as they are told. Media portrays the military and law enforcement officers as dumb, paranoid, angry, psychotic warmongers who refers to them as pigs, while portraying criminals who smoke hash and shoot up dope as creative, nice people who are unproductive because they are products of their environment and society. creating generalizations in the eyes of the people who observe them, furthering hatred and mistrust towards the people who protect and serve. The slow erosion of morals and our basic principles. Instead of "thou shalt not kill," it is now "thou shalt not murder." During the destabilization stage, the media puts itself in opposition of society at large, becoming separated, isolated, and alienated. By urbanizing and taking land, affecting population, subversion creates a sense of alienation. Initiators create arguments between unions and societies by disrupting collective bargaining rights. Unions were created to establish better working conditions and protect the rights of its workers. It is also thought of as an end of the natural process of exchange and the creation of an economy, creating a third intermediate party to distribute what is received accordingly. Now though the bargaining process is no longer seen in the compromise. After each prolonged strike, with even a 10% increase in wages, workers still lose. They cannot catch up because of inflation and missed time. Millions of other people also suffer because of the strike, because now unions and the economy are both intertwined and interdependent upon one another. The only ones who profit are union leaders and corporate billionaires. The initiators produces false heroes and role models to create fads, make the target feel defenseless by attacking its security through intelligence, military, and police organizations, antagonizes the target political parties from within to create disunity, and assaults its allies and friends to isolate the target. The target should show no loyalty, and families are to be broken up. In the destabilization stage of the process, the target cannot come to a compromise, not even among families. Husbands and wives must fight, and no compromise among neighbors can be achieved, which results into going into civil court. The initiator affects the target's health through sports, healthcare, and junk food, producing an enfeebled society, attacking race and upper class by using genetics versus environment arguments, thus creating more hate and division, radicalization, militarization, shootings, and more people becoming antagonistic, replacing what was once people who settled their differences peacefully. Through propaganda, mass media, and ideological discrimination, a person's desire to sell his own labor of his own free will is taken away. Instead of going according to our deeds and believing that what we do is important, we believe instead that we are all to be treated equally. We build our society on the promise that we are equal, yet equality cannot be legislated. Labor and employer relations in the destabilization stage is further radicalized. When the legitimacy of demands which is placed upon the worker are accepted without any decision-making or involvement by the employees, nor the incentive to even fight their bosses. During the stage of destabilization, if a bargaining process could be established among labor, radicalization is used. Deny the importance of all foreign ideologies into the target government. Stop allowing foreign media and media of the target nation to subvert that nation. allowing these sources of media to enter into the target government must also stop. Prevent money in elections through PAC, and prevent the media from changing high prices for democratic elections, or charging high prices for democratic elections. Maybe set up a free source of media through the Postal Service for political parties and candidates during election time. Stop allowing trade with foreign countries such as China when foreign countries offer us junk. Promptly reply, "No, thank you. We have our own junk." In order to establish policy, the most ignorant thing for the initiator to do is fight, and the highest form of warfare is not to fight at all. The initiator subverts anything that is of value that belongs to the target until the target perception is so distorted that it's no longer perceives. See, there's my bad spelling. It takes from the initiator subverts anything that is of value that belongs to the target until the target's perception is so distorted that it no longer perceives the initiator as the enemy. It takes from 15 to 25 years for any society to become demoralized. In order to do this, time is used for educating one generation through influence, infiltration, and propaganda. The moment that the initiator brings the target into complete demoralization, where the target can no longer differentiate between what is right or wrong, good or evil, and nothing works anymore, when governments and church leaders both believe that violence is the answer and there is justification for it, especially for the sake of social justice, the target listens to them and thinks to itself, "Yeah, maybe it is good. The truth is, violence has never been justifiable and it never will be, especially for the sake of social justice." And now the target has moved into the stage of destabilization. Destabilization is exactly what it sounds like. The destabilization of the target's relationships, institutions, and organizations. How do they do it? They let the target do it themselves. Subversion teaches our children permissiveness and relativity in school. Instead of teaching students things that are pragmatic, initiators teach them things that take them away from what is important. Teachers and student relations are frustrated during the destabilization stage of subversion. Students at the stage of destabilization return to the target subverted to join other students that are also subverted. They eventually become religious and political leaders who actively involve themselves in the political process, making social issues into political issues and demanding recognition, respect, civil and human rights, and rallying large groups of people. Soon after, clashes of violence pursue. No matter what the issue is, it does not matter as long as the groups come into antagonistic clashes with one another. The people who are involved in these clashes aren't even sent in by the initiator either. They are all respected members of that group and respected citizens who are unaware of what is really going on, sending their money to the initiator involved in subverting the target that they consider as an enemy, thereby leading the target into the stage of crisis. In subversion, it is understood that there are tendencies in every society going in opposite directions from its basic morals, values, and principles. The main purpose of subversion is to take advantage of these tendencies and capitalize on them. The areas in which subversion is applied are in our religion, education, social and power structures, labor relations, and law enforcement. During the destabilization stage, though, the process narrows down to the economy, law enforcement, the military, and the media. But this time with the issue of radicalization as well, criticizing and isolating religion, declaring it naive and primitive. Religious dogma is to be eroded, and the true purpose of religion is to be taken away and replaced with another artificial form of faith. Religion must be commercialized, publicized, and turned into entertainment. In order for subversion to work, religion has to be attacked. Because all forms of religion are self-restraint. To demoralize a target, self-restraint must be eliminated, and to do that ideologies and religion must be brought into question and then smashed. Every known civilization with an economy that disappeared off the face of the earth did so because they lost their religions and ideologies. Have you ever heard of anyone saying that they were willing to sacrifice their life over the truth of 2 + 2 = 4? Millions of people, though, have lost their lives over ideologies, beliefs, and religion, guiding forces which move our society forward, yet is invisible or without facts of truth. On the other hand, too, if we did make 2 + 2 = 4 the guiding force of our existence, we would surely be doomed, and our society would die. Even though one is true and one cannot be proven, at the demoralization stage of subversion it is simple to avoid becoming a victim by developing moral resolve and have faith, instead of striking out at your enemy and becoming trapped in the pitfall of subversion. Do not strike out at all. Alright, that is the end of my reading. I hope you enjoyed it. I thought it would be a lot longer than that, but I guess it wasn't. That is one of my oldest notes on here too. I remember going through and watching the video on YouTube. It's really good, but I went and I took notes from his lecture, and I actually liked what he had to say. Like I said, I didn't really do too good when it comes to punctuation, and I had a hard time with some of the parts, but other than that, it was alright to read. If you guys like this video, please like, subscribe, share, make comments, and give feedback. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Thank you for watching.